Hola hermanos, les saludamos, estamos contentas, felices porque este es nuestro primer video que hacemos mi hija y yo, así que estamos muy agradecidas con el Señor. Y hoy queremos contarles una historia acerca de un joven de tan solo 17 años que sufrió muchas situaciones complicadas en su vida y aún a pesar de eso él no perdió la fe, él siempre creyó en Dios. Y este joven se llama José, mejor conocido como José el Soñador. Y su historia de este joven se encuentra en nuestra bella Biblia, que está en el libro de Génesis 37, para que ustedes chequen la historia. Yo solamente les vamos a contar un pequeño resumen de la historia y vamos a tocar puntos importantes de las lecciones que podemos aprender acerca de este joven. Bueno, en el capítulo 37 habla de cómo José fue vendido por sus hermanos. José, su papá se llama Jacob y su abuelo se llama Isaac y su tatarabuelo es el padre Abraham, así que viene de una descendencia de hombres de fe, hombres que creyeron en Dios. Entonces José también es un joven que cree en Dios, pero él pasó muchas cosas. Él tuvo que enfrentar la envidia y los celos de sus hermanos. Jacob quería mucho a su hijo José porque era el bebé de la casa, hermanos, y lo quería mucho porque José fue engendrado cuando Jacob estaba pues ya anciano, así que lo apreciaba y amaba mucho a su hijo, no solo porque era el más pequeño, sino porque lo tuvo en su vejez. Fue un milagro de Dios José, así que lo apreciaba mucho. Pero este cariño que le tenía Jacob a su hijo José, a su hijo pequeño, pues llegó a causar celos y envidias de parte de sus demás hermanos, al tal punto de maltratar a José. Así que pobre José tuvo que haber enfrentado humillaciones, groserías, yo creo, de parte de sus hermanos, o sea, sufría de bullying el pobre de José. Pero también la historia nos cuenta que no quedó solo de envidia y celos, hermanos, sino llegó al punto de que sus hermanos de José lo odiaron. Y lo odiaron tanto que atentaron contra su vida. Qué triste que un hermano no solo te odie, sino que desee tu muerte. Y vemos la historia que sí, efectivamente ellos querían matar a José, lo llevaron para matarlo, pero Dios estaba con José y a través de uno de sus hermanos, de sus propios hermanos, pues le dijeron, no lo matemos. Entonces había un pozo, un hoyo en el piso, en el camino, y decidieron aventar a José en ese pozo. La historia no dice cómo era el pozo, hermanas, qué tan profundo era, pero si nos ponemos a pensar, obviamente era un pozo feo, oscuro, y ahí aventaron a José y me imagino que cuando José cayó, pues cayó herido porque pues lo aventaron, porque acordémonos que ellos querían matarlo. Pero después que lo aventaron en el pozo, sus hermanos estaban discutiendo de que qué hacían con él, si lo mataban o no lo mataban y todo eso, ¿no? Y después pasaron unos comerciantes, gente de ahí, y mejor decidieron venderlo. Así que sacan a su hermano del pozo, no sabemos cómo lo sacaron, pero lo sacaron y lo vendieron. Y José, pues, cuando llegó a otro lugar, pues no llegó bien, él llegó triste, herido, con la decepción, hermanos, de que sus hermanos lo odiaron, de que sus hermanos lo vendieron, de que ya no está en su casa, ya no está con su papi querido, ya no está, él perdió todo. Pero hay algo que José no perdió, era su fe en Dios, él llevaba su fe en Dios, así que Dios lo bendijo y fue a parar a la casa del capitán del rey de Egipto, en la ciudad de Egipto. Y este capitán dicen que se llamaba Potifar. Y pues ahí José trabajó para Potifar como esclavo y todo. Y pues aún así José era agradecido. Pero ahí, hermanos, le vino otro problemón al pobre de José. Y recuerden que José solo tenía 17 años, era un joven que estaba ya sirviendo, que había sido vendido odiado y maltratado por sus hermanos. Y en la casa de Potifar, él sufre acoso. La historia nos cuenta que la esposa de Potifar, la cual no aparece su nombre, la esposa de Potifar trató de seducir a José. No sabemos cuántas veces, porque no dice la historia cuántas veces cuánto tiempo estuvo José en la casa de Potifar, si fueron meses, si fueron años, no sabemos, no dice la historia. Pero dice que esta mujer trató de seducir a Potifar, a José. ¿Qué quiere decir esto de que quiso seducirlo, hermanos? José sufría de acoso sexual. Sí, nos podemos quedar como que, wow, sufría de acoso sexual por parte de la esposa de Potifar. Sí, con tan solo 17 años, José ya tenía que enfrentar el acoso sexual de una mujer. Entonces dice la historia que lo sedujo, pero José no accedió a esta seducción. Más bien él huyó. Y como decimos los mexicanos, patitas, ¿para qué las quiero, verdad? Así que él salió, pues pobre, salió corriendo, yo creo él asustado, pero también con la mente de Dios, de que no me voy a dejar, no voy a pecar contra el señor Potifar, ni contra su esposa, menos contra Dios. Entonces él salió corriendo, hermanos. Entonces dice que la mujer, pues imagínense, la despreció, el joven José la despreció, la despechó. Entonces esta mujer no estaba contenta, así que fue a contarle a su esposo, pero no le contó lo que realmente sucedió. Más bien le contó que José trató de seducirla, trató de violarla. Entonces el pobre José fue acusado de violación. Así que obviamente Potifar le creyó a su buena esposa, que no era tan buena, y echó a José a la cárcel por acusación de violación, de que trató de violar a su esposa. Y el joven José fue a parar a la cárcel. Ahí otro sufrimiento más para este joven de 17 años, hermanas. Fue a parar a la cárcel y la historia nos cuenta que José aún así al mal tiempo buena cara. Y él se portó bien en la cárcel, dice que él era un hombre, un joven de testimonio dentro de la cárcel, pero me sorprende mucho de que él nunca renegó de Dios, hermanos, ahí, y se portó bien. Tanto fue así que uno de los que cuidaban la cárcel, que hoy en día podríamos decir uno de los policías que cuidaba a los presos de ahí, pues vio su buen comportamiento de José y le dijeron, ¿sabes qué, José? Eres buen muchacho, ahora te vamos a pedir que tú nos ayudes a vigilar también a los presos de aquí. Y qué lindo, ¿no? Y curiosamente fueron a parar dos presos del palacio, un copero y un panadero, dicen, al servicio del rey. Y estos coperos tuvieron dos sueños, que no los dejaba dormir, y le contaron a José sus sueños, porque acuérdense que José pues tenía ese talento y ese don de traducir los sueños. Así que José les traduce el sueño. Para el pobre panadero no fueron buenas noticias, porque pues iba a morir el pobre. Pero para el copero sí eran buenas noticias, porque iba a salir libre. Y José le dice, cuando salgas libre, por favor acuérdate de mí. Había una pequeña esperanza en José que cuando saliera este copero, pues le fuera a avisar al rey y dejara salir también a José por su buen comportamiento y por haberle traducido el sueño. Pero nuestra Biblia, nuestra historia nos dice que el copero se olvidó de José. Pasaron 2 años, o sea, todavía José pasó 2 años más en la cárcel. Yo creo que en cuanto salió el copero, José dijo, ahora sí, ya voy a salir, ya me voy a salir de aquí, pero no. Pasaron 2 años hasta que el rey tuvo un sueño y el copero pues se enteró que el rey tuvo un sueño y le dijo, yo conocí a alguien en la cárcel que traduce los sueños. Entonces ahí fue donde mandaron a llamar a José. Y José pudo traducir el sueño del rey. Y después dice que pues el rey halló gracia delante de José por todo lo que él era, lo bueno que era. Pero acuérdense que no era José, sino era Dios en él. Entonces, pues que lo asciende de puesto, le da el puesto de ser el segundo del rey, o sea, de no tener nada, hermanos, de estar en la cárcel. José es bendecido por el mismo rey de Egipto y lo bendice y pues ya. Después la historia cuenta que donde él vivía, donde antes vivía sus papás y sus hermanos, había pasado una hambruna muy grande. Y pues yo creo la familia de José estaban muriéndose de hambre, el cual los hizo viajar a Egipto. Y pues José, como buen administrador que era de Egipto, logró acumular bastante comida para pasar el tiempo de hambruna. Y entonces llegaron los hermanos de José ahí. O sea, ahí José podía haberse vengado de sus hermanos. Pero obviamente no reconocieron a José porque ya no era el jovencito de 17 años el cual vendieron. Ya era todo un hombre José. Entonces, lejos de vengarse, de atentar contra su vida, los bendijo y les dijo: yo soy su hermano José, el cual ustedes atentaron contra mi vida y pues yo los voy a bendecir, se pueden quedar aquí. Y les dio de comer y bendijo a su familia. Vemos cómo Dios usó a José para salvar a su misma familia. Y bueno, la historia cuenta mucho más de este joven sorprendente, hermanos, pero ¿qué podemos aprender de este joven? Primero, él tenía una fe inquebrantable, a pesar de las circunstancias dentro del pozo, dentro del acoso sexual, dentro de la cárcel. Su fe no se movía, hermanos, su fe siempre estaba ahí. También podemos aprender que José seguía teniendo esperanza, a pesar de que el copero se olvidó de él no perdía la esperanza. Él siempre dijo: yo sé que pronto voy a salir de aquí, creo en Dios y sé que Dios me va a bendecir, y Dios lo bendijo porque él nunca perdió la esperanza. Pero también vemos que José pues sufría de bullying por parte de sus hermanos. También podemos aprender que José, lejos de ser un hombre vengativo porque podía vengarse, no, él no fue un hombre vengativo, fue un hombre de Dios. Fue un joven de testimonio dentro de la cárcel, porque él pudo renegar de Dios. Él pudo decir: pues, ¿para qué creo en Dios si me va mal en la vida y todo? No, él nunca renegó de Dios. Y nosotros, hermanos, podemos aprender de José, que a veces nosotros somos bien quejumbrosos, nos quejamos de: ay, no tengo nada, mi mamá no me quiere, me siento solo, pobre de mí, nos hacemos los víctimas. Pero vemos cómo este José realmente sufrió de todo, hermanos, y él nunca perdió la fe. Así que, ¿qué Dios te está diciendo con esta historia, joven, hermana? ¿Qué nos quiere enseñar Dios acerca de esta historia? José siempre fue un hombre de testimonio a pesar de todo lo que él pasó, a pesar de estar solo por años, de sufrir acoso y todo, ¿verdad? Y bueno, mi hija también va a hablarles un poquito acerca de José, así que le doy el paso a ella.
Hi everyone, I'm going to be talking in English to help those who better understand it in English. So today we're talking about the story of Joseph, also known as Joseph with the coat of many colors. This can be found in Genesis 37 if you want to read it more in detail, and it's a really juicy story, let me just tell you, but I'm gonna resume it. So basically there's this teenager, he's 17, so about my age, pretty young, I think. Well, to some of you I might seem old, but he's pretty young. And the story starts off with him having dreams. Basically, there was this sheaves of wheat. They were picking up a bunch of wheat, so what bread is made out of. Him and his brothers, and his rose up, and his brothers rose up as well, and they bowed down to his. And he told his brothers this, and then he had another dream where the sun, the moon, and 11 stars, which signify his 11 brothers, bowed down to him. And when he told his brothers, they were already jealous because he was the favorite one of his dad, who happens to be Jacob. And so they were jealous that he was the favorite one, that he was the youngest one, he got all the privileges, all that. So when he told them, basically, y'all are gonna bow down to me, and so is my father, wow, they were super jealous and super mad. And so one day they went to go feed the cows because they were all, sheep, because they were all shepherds. They went far away to find grass where the sheep could eat. And the dad sent Joseph to go see them and check on them. So on his way, from afar, his brothers saw him, and they were like, okay, let's kill him now that we have the chance. Let's kill him because we hate him so much. And the oldest brother, Reuben, was like, no, 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 let's not kill him. Let's not shed blood. Let's just put him in a pit. There was a deep pit over there that someone had made, and they decided to put him there. And Reuben was like, later I'm going to go get him, rescue him, and send him to my father because I don't want him to die. And so they put him in the pit, and time passed, and the brothers were like, ooh, okay, you know what, let's not kill him, but let's make some money out of this. So one of the brothers, named Judah, was like, okay, but I see a trader over there, a trade person, let's sell him my brother. So they sold him his brother for 20 shekels of silver. That's $200. And some of y'all might be like, wow, that's a lot of money, you know, but is it really? $200 for a person? I think I'm worth more. I think my mom is worth more. And God thinks the same thing. But anyway, they sold them, and basically to convince his dad that he was gone and not make him suspect that they sold him off, they told him that he had been killed by a wild animal. So they grabbed the coat of many colors that his dad had given to him and covered it in blood, sheep blood, because they killed the sheep and grabbed the blood and spilled it all over. And the dad was so sad, and it was left at that. The Bible doesn't say any more about their lives for a while. And so we continue with Joseph's story. Joseph was sent to Egypt, and since he looked so healthy and everything, and they sold him to the Coast Guard, or the captain of the guard, Potiphar, and he found grace in him. He saw that the Lord was with him. And so he put him in charge after a while, of course. After a while of seeing him work, he put him in charge of all his house. It says in the Bible that Potiphar didn't worry about a thing in his house. He just worried about what to eat, which is basically, he just worried about his job, working for the Pharaoh, because he was like the top bodyguard of the Pharaoh, which would be like the top bodyguard of the president right now. So all he worried about was his work, because at home he knew that Joseph was going to take care of everything, because he knew that he had found grace in God's eyes, so he found grace in Potiphar. And so they continue on with the story, and this boy gets older. He's no longer a teenager. He turns into a young adult, and so on. And the Potiphar's wife was like, oh, okay, he's kind of getting cute. So basically, she starts looking at him and sexually assaults him multiple times. She's like, come here with me, you know, you're cute and all that. And he was like, no, no, no. God, I will not sin against God or Potiphar. He has trusted me with his house, and I'm not going to do this. Plus, you're his wife. You're married. I'm not going to do that to God, to him, or to you. That's not right. So she kept trying and kept trying. And so then one day they were alone in the house. There was no other servants, because remember, this is a big house with many servants. But for some reason, there was no other servants except him and Potiphar's wife. So basically, she grabbed his robe, and she was like, come on, oh, you're cute, it's okay, you know, I like you. And he got so scared for not just his life or what was going on, but to sin against God, that he ran away and left his robe behind in her arms. So she took this robe and told Potiphar, hey, look, he tried to sexually assault me, blah, 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 he's evil, and just let him go. And she did this because she was so mad that he didn't pay attention to her. She was like, oh, I was just rejected. Okay, then suffer the consequences. So she lied, and Potiphar obviously believed his wife. And he was so mad that he threw him into prison. Of course, this was not, this was injustice because he didn't do anything. On the contrary, he respected her by not doing anything and being loyal to God and Potiphar, despite him being a slave. So that happened. He was in prison, and there again, he showed that he was an obedient person, full of faith and love to God. And he also, the prison guards found grace in him, and they were like, "Okay, you seem like a good guy, so I'll just put you in charge of the prisoners and everything going on in the prison. You know, you'll still be a prisoner, but you're in charge of everything, looking at everything, because I see you're responsible and you have grace in God's eyes, and God has blessed you in everything you do." So he was in charge of that. And one day the Pharaoh got mad at the cupper, which is the person that pours water or wine or any of the drink that Pharaoh wants onto his cup, and he got mad at the Pharaoh's baker. So he put both of them in prison. And coincidentally, or as I like to call it, destiny, because of God, he was put into the same prison as Joseph. And so they met. They both had weird dreams in the same night, and they were disturbed. And when Joseph asked them, "Hey, what's up?" they told him the dreams. And so Joseph interpreted it because of God. He told them, "Okay, God can tell you what they are." And so he told them what their dreams would mean. The baker basically would die in 3 days, and the cupper would go back to his job in 3 days. So when the cupper left, Joseph told them, "Please don't forget about me, tell the Pharaoh about me," and all that. And through this, we see that Joseph had hope. He knew that he wasn't going to stay there, that God had plans for him, despite being someone young like us. I don't know about y'all, but I don't think my faith is that strong yet, but I will keep working on it. So anyway, 2 years passed, and the cupper basically dissed him. He forgot about him completely. And then the Pharaoh had 2 dreams. One was of 7 cows that were eating, that were fat and healthy, basically, that were drinking water by a river. And then other 7 cows that were ugly and skinny came and also drank water by the river. Eventually, the skinny, ugly cows ate the big, fat, healthy cows. And, of course, this was disturbing to the Pharaoh. Then, on the same night, he had another dream where there was this grain stalk, and there was 7 healthy grain heads, and there was 7 that were all dry and ugly and everything. And the dry ones ate the skinny ones. And so the Pharaoh asked all his magicians, all these people, to come and help him to decipher what this dream meant, because it hit his spirit. He didn't know what was going on. He was freaking out. And the cupper then, after 2 years, finally remembered, and he's like, "Okay, there's this guy named Joseph who says he can interpret dreams." And so the Pharaoh's like, "Okay, get him." So they get him. And the Pharaoh's like, "Joseph, okay, interpret my dream. They say you can do it." And he's like, "No, I can't do it. God will. God will interpret your dreams." So then he interprets his dreams. He tells them, "Hey, we're going to have 7 years of fruitful everything. You're going to have good land, money, everything. Good money, good climate, good weather. Everything is going to go well for 7 years. But the other 7, which represents the ugly cows and the dry grain heads, are going to be full of famine. So you got to reserve some food for that time. Some food, some money, supplies, everything." So then the Pharaoh's like, what? And this impacts him completely because no one could decipher the dream. And he found that he had been fulfilling God's will and that God was blessing him. And so he's like, "Okay, you know what? I like you." So he slowly puts him in charge of everything to the point where he's the person under Pharaoh. Basically, everyone has to obey him. The only person that can outboss him would be the Pharaoh. So he's really, really powerful. And so years pass, and when he's 30, his brothers are struck by the famine. It had been 2 years of famine now. So that means the 7 years of fruitfulness and happiness had been gone. 2 years into the famine, his dad Jacob and his brothers were like, okay, we have no food. What do we do? And so everyone around that area heard that the Egyptians had food, and they were willing to sell it. So Jacob sent some of his brothers. They're like, go get some food, or we're gonna die here. We need food. We're gonna die. But they left the younger brother behind because he wanted to take care of him. Benjamin is his name. He had been born during the time that Joseph was a slave. So all the older brothers went to go get food, and Joseph recognized them, and they didn't, because he looked different, He probably had Egyptian clothes, Egyptian makeup, because you know how they put that eyeliner stuff and all that. They did not recognize him. The last time they had seen him, he was 17, and right now he was 30. So they're like, please, and they bowed down, just like in the dream about the grains and all that. They bowed down, and they're like, please help us and everything. And eventually some trauma happened, which you're going to have to read in the Bible. But then they bring the dad and Benjamin in the end. And he's like, okay, it's me. Guys, it's me. It's the one that you sold off to slavery. But God, see, look how wise he is. He said, but God sent me here ahead of y'all so that when the famine struck, God's people would be provided for. He used me to get supplies for y'all when the famine would strike. Who would think of that? When you see the people that sold you off to who would think of that? You would be like, oh no, I've been sent off to slavery. I'm gonna punch these people or something, be mad. But no, he was opening his mind and seeing what God's plan was all along, which was to provide for his family. And so he took care of them, gave them food and everything. And through this, we see many things. We see his unbreakable faith. We also see that he rejected temptation with Potiphar's wife and doing so many things that could get him off of God's path. Of course, he knew that he did nothing wrong, and his family and his brothers hated him and sold him off to slavery. So that would have made me so sad that I don't think I'd believe in God. But he defies that, and he teaches us to continue with our faith despite everything we have going on. Bad grades, bad teachers, our parents are fighting, anything and everything cannot be worse than being sold off to slavery by your brothers and wanting to get killed. Let's remember he was in the pit for who knows how long. His brothers were eating for a while before they got him and sold him off. So he was in the dark for a while. He was probably hurt because the pit was probably really high up, and yet he still had faith. Even in the prison, when he was put in prison unjustly, he had faith. So something else is that we learn from him is that he adapts to his circumstances. So whatever we have, whether that's hard classes or we have anxiety, panic attacks, or pandemic right now, we have to be adaptable. Not adapt go with the flow of the world and everything, but adapt according to, okay, you know what, let's see the brighter side of things. Let's try to be the best we can be. He was a slave, and he tried to be the best slave he could be. So we have to be the best student we could be, the best son or daughter we can be, the best brothers, sisters. We have to try to be the best we can be for God, because we are testimony. We also see that Pharaoh and the prison guards noticed how powerful was his connection with God and everything. They saw grace. This means that he showed his testimony. So even in school, when someone says a dirty joke, or someone says something disrespectful about the teacher, you can't laugh or show support, because that would completely break your testimony, whether you think of it or not. Just laughing at a dirty joke is haha, that's okay. You can tell me those jokes. My ears are open to that. No. We have to be strong, and we have to show that I'm not okay with that. Whether that means kindly getting up and going to get water at the lunchroom when they're saying dirty jokes, or that means, hey, can we change the topic? Or, hey, look, guys, I see this new thing on my phone. Let's talk about that. Just slickly and respectfully change the topic. Don't put yourself in those situations. And once again, we see that he had been alone for many years, obviously. From 17 to 30, he was alone. And in a foreign land, he had to learn the language of the Egyptians and everything. And he still had faith in God because he noticed that I'm not alone. I am the most accompanied person in the world because I am hugged by the creator of all this. Even though I don't have my family, I am not alone. So at school, when you feel all this chaos and pressure and everything, not even at school, just with your friends in general, in your life, you feel alone. Your parents don't get you because you're too young and they're a little bit older. They don't go through the same circumstances. And though they say they get you, you're like, no, you don't get me. But God and Joseph teach us that you are not alone. You just have to trust him. It's like I told my sister, we are here. God is here. And you're stuck in all this sadness, depression, anxiety, everything. And so God gets closer, and he is to the point of touching you. But he is respectful and gives you free will. And you have to grab his hand. He is right there extending his hand, and you have to be willing to grab his hand and trust him. Not just be like, okay, I'm taken care of, I'll do whatever, God's got my back. No, trust him just like Joseph did. So that is what the story is telling us.
Bueno, amigos, espero que les haya gustado esta historia y espero que hayan aprendido un poquito acerca de la vida de José, de este joven, de que no se dejó vencer a pesar de las circunstancias feas que él pasó. Él siguió creyendo en Dios. Así que si estás pasando por una situación difícil, no permitas que esa situación quebrante tu fe, quebrante tu esperanza. Todo lo que estás pasando es feo, sí, probablemente es feo. No sé qué situación estés pasando y probablemente estás lleno de tristeza, lleno de dolor, pero si tú confías en Dios, todo ese sufrimiento, Dios te lo va a recompensar y vas a ver la bendición de Dios a través de tu fe, así como lo hizo José. Si José hubiera rechazado a Dios y hubiera convertidose en un joven rebelde, en un joven sin esperanza y sin Dios, tal vez él en la cárcel o dentro de todo lo que hubiera pasado, él se hubiera suicidado, probablemente sí hubiera pecado y se hubiera metido con la esposa de Potifar, pero él no hizo nada de eso, él siguió creyendo en Dios, así que sigue tú creyendo en Dios, vence la tentación, que Dios te va a bendecir grandemente en un futuro. No pierdas la esperanza y bueno, hermanos, gracias y que Dios los bendiga. Hasta luego.